does my employer have to accommodate me if I test positive or if I become sick because of COVID 19?
Yeah, so as Brittany explained previously, employers have a duty to accommodate employees under the code, and that has to be based on legitimate needs relating to any one or more of the protected grounds. For example, disability, sex, family status. The exception is that, unless it would amount to undue hardship based on cost or health and safety, for example. Now, one of the protected grounds under the code is disability. And the Ontario Human Rights Commission's policy position is that the code ground of disability is engaged in relation to COVID 19 as it covers medical conditions or perceived medical conditions that carry significant social stigma. So, what that essentially means is COVID 19 is going to be covered under the ground of disability. And employers should be mindful of individual factors that can make an employee particularly vulnerable. So, for example, if they're immunocompromised. Now, accommodation doesn't mean that the employer has to agree with the employee's preference, like Brittany said. Rather, the obligation is to provide reasonable accommodation, which can take many forms. And as Stuart said, it can also be an unpaid leave of absence. In light of the pandemic, Ontario did introduce an unpaid job protected leave for employees, as we discussed. And what that applies to essentially is if an employee is under medical investigation, supervision, or treatment, or in isolation or quarantine, or if they need to be away from work to care for children because of school or daycare closures, or to care for other relatives, or if they're affected by travel restrictions, for example, due to COVID 19, then they would receive protection under this unpaid job protected leave of absence. And these measures are retroactive to Jan 25th, 2020.
Great, thanks, Nadia. And that raises another point too, which is because it's been made clear that COVID 19 is considered to be a disability under human rights legislation. You can't discriminate against someone either. So we've had this discussion with some employers before who may have laid people off and now they want to recall them. And one of the things we've often said is, generally speaking, you can recall whoever you want. You don't have to go in order of seniority or first in, first out, or first out, first in, whatever the case may be. You can pick and choose as long as it's not based upon a protected ground under human rights legislation like sex or religion, etc., or disability. And so I've had some employers say, well, so-and-so was off because he tested positive, so we're going to bring somebody else back. And you can't do that. Obviously, if they're still positive, you're not going to bring them back. But if they've already done whatever they had to do in terms of isolation, then you can't discriminate on that basis. So it brings up some other interesting points as well. Because even though it might seem logical to not bring someone back that had COVID, you may be treading on thin ice on the human rights side there.